And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Good morning, Car Clinic affiliates. Your Car Clinic minutes for the week of June 5th, 2017 are about to head your way. So go ahead and press the record button. As always, thank you for broadcasting and listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Have a great weekend.
Hi, this is Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. As the sun slips slowly below the horizon, you round the curve and your car stutters and stalls. Ease over to the side of the road, because when I come back, ways to keep you safer during breakdowns after sundown.
O'Reilly. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts during Clean Car Month for great deals on everything you need to keep your car looking new, like Armor All Protectant, now $4.99 for a 16-ounce bottle. Renew, revitalize, and protect your vehicle with Armor All Protectant for $4.99 during Clean Car Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It was a dark and stormy night. You're thinking horror story. And you're right. If you're broken down after sundown, to lessen scare and increase safety, kill your hysteria and clear your head. Lock doors and put on hazard lights. Do not attempt repairs at night. Call for help. Everyone should have a cell phone for emergencies, and 911 is a not-so-secret weapon. Since villains can look like Freddy Krueger or a beautiful movie star, if you're approached by a stranger, don't roll down your window, even a little, and leave your cell phone in plain sight. Chances are the bad guys will guess you've called the good guys to the rescue. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Check engine lights, got you all steamed up? Could be a TSB will cool you down. And I'm not talking about a tepid sponge bath. When I come back, you'll be awash in the knowledge of TSBs and their meaning.
O'Reilly.
If your AC isn't blowing cold air, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help. Interdynamics R134A refrigerant with a gauge and hose is on sale now for $29.99 plus double O Rewards points. Bring back the cool in 3 easy steps with Interdynamics at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Car trouble can get us hot under the collar, but TSBs can help break the fever in the service center. Issued by vehicle manufacturers, TSBs fill us in on fixes for design issues discovered after a particular vehicle model rolls off the assembly line. While manufacturers may or may not cover the cost of problems in cold hard cash, the TSB info alone can identify problems that could be frustrating and expensive to find. Both dealers and independent shops have access to TSBs, so talk to your technician. A little research may show that your vehicle qualifies as a recall, and you could qualify for a refund. How cool is that? I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. You're at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and look up in the sky. What do you see? It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a wasp. When I come back, I'll tell you about Indy's first airborne racers.
O'Reilly.
Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today and pick up 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil for $27.95 and earn double O Rewards points with your purchase. Protect your engine from sludge and wear with Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It's 1909. Things at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway were really looking up, literally, because the first vehicles raced at the Indy weren't cars. They were hot air balloons. It wasn't until 1911 that 100,000 people witnessed the inaugural automobile race at this famous track, which was made of crushed gravel and oil. Then, drivers moved at the slowpoke speed of 75 miles per hour and took over 6 hours to finish the race. Ironically, this first Indy 500 was won by Ray Harroun in a car named after an airborne creature, a Marmon wasp, aptly named for its yellow color and long pointed tail. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Check engine lights, got you all steamed up? Could be a TSB will cool you down. And I'm not talking about a tepid sponge bath. When I come back, you'll be awash in the knowledge of TSBs and their meaning.
O'Reilly.
If your wiper blades are worn and streaking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and save $8 instantly on a pair of Rain-X Latitude wiper blades. Improve visibility and save money with Rain-X Latitude wiper blades. Plus, take advantage of our free wiper blade installation. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Car trouble can get us hot under the collar, but TSBs can help break the fever in the service center. Issued by vehicle manufacturers, TSBs fill us in on fixes for design issues discovered after a particular vehicle model rolls off the assembly line. While manufacturers may or may not cover the cost of problems in cold hard cash, the TSB info alone can identify problems that could be frustrating and expensive to find. Both dealers and independent shops have access to TSBs, so talk to your technician. A little research may show that your vehicle qualifies as a recall, and you could qualify for a refund. How cool is that? I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. You're at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and look up in the sky. What do you see? It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a wasp. When I come back, I'll tell you about Indy's first airborne racers.
O'Reilly.
Restore lost fuel economy and eliminate rough idle with Lucas Fuel Injector Cleaner. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, buy 2 bottles of Lucas Fuel Injector Cleaner and get one free. Clean clogged injectors and increase fuel efficiency with Lucas Fuel Injector Cleaner. Buy 2, get 1 free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It's 1909. Things at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway were really looking up. Literally, because the first vehicles raced at the Indy weren't cars. They were hot air balloons. It wasn't until 1911 that 100,000 people witnessed the inaugural automobile race at this famous track, which was made of crushed gravel and oil. Then, drivers moved at the slowpoke speed of 75 miles per hour and took over 6 hours to finish the race. Ironically, this first Indy 500 was won by Ray Harroun in a car named after an airborne creature, a Marmon wasp, aptly named for its yellow color and long pointed tail. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Count down to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a good morning to you. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Stick around this hour and we'll answer your car questions, and we'll tell you about the price of gas. And there's a new electric wind, that's right, wind currents generated by special devices for the front of semis that help air flow around the front of the truck and do what? Increase MPG. And that's one of where the 10% increase in a semi is a huge increase, or a 2% even. So the manufacturers are working diligently on cars to meet the mandate, the 54.5 mandate that we may see or we may not see. It depends. But I will tell you, it's very interesting the way cars are made and the technology. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by General Tire and its innovative replacement tire monitor technology, providing you with a warning when the tire is worn and needs to be replaced. Drive to GeneralTire.com for all of the information. Really a neat engineering feat that I call it for General Tire engineers, and really great for you to know the condition of the tires on your vehicle. And this segment also brought to you in part by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Your AC not blowing hot air? Well, when I come back, I'm going to share with you how to make it blow cold air. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you're going to love us. 888 Car Clinic. Jan will take your calls when I come back.
O'Reilly.
Restore lost fuel economy and eliminate rough idle with Lucas Fuel Injector Cleaner. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, buy 2 bottles of Lucas Fuel Injector Cleaner and get 1 free. Plus, get double O Rewards points on this offer. Clean clogged injectors with Lucas Fuel Injector Cleaner at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Folks, it's a great time to shop for tires. Starting Monday, May 15th and running through June 15th, General Tire is offering up to $70 on a prepaid Visa gift card when you purchase 4 qualifying tires. General Tire offers unbeatable technologies like replacement tire monitors, smart grip, and visual alignment monitors. And with new tires like the G-Max AS05, the selection's never been better. Find your next set of tires at GeneralTire.com. That's GeneralTire.com. Here's an email from a Car Clinic listener. David writes, "What's the amber light on my dash? It looks like a cork pointing at an angle to a picture on the side of the car. This light has been on and off for about a year now, and I think it's time I check it out." Well, David, no time like the present. The light indicates a detected failure that could allow gasoline fumes to evaporate into the air, costing you money in lost fuel and polluting the air. Most common failure that trips the light? A small evap leak, or in other words, loose fuel cap. Besides being tight, the cap must also be in good condition. Fuel caps don't last forever, and poor quality caps don't work well from the beginning. Stant makes a large line of fuel caps that will last a very long time and ensure proper sealing of the system. Stant fuel caps are the only aftermarket caps to include all the safety features of the original equipment cap. Visit Stant.com or ask your local parts store for a Stant gas cap by name.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, loaded, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I want you to just sit back and relax. And if you have a specific question that you'd like to know the answer to with regard to the automobile that you drive, maybe your car's got, so let's say 80, 90,000 miles on it. I started to say 70 or 60 or 70, but, that's a given. Cars are 100,000 miles on a car these days. Is really not a big deal. If you listen to the program, you'll hear people call in with maybe a little misfire or the car's idling rough, and I'll ask the question, well, how many miles on the vehicle? Well, it's a 222,000 and some odd miles, and that's a four-cylinder. And you say, well, what is that? What's the difference between 200,000 miles on a four-cylinder and an eight-cylinder? It's a tremendous amount of difference because the four-cylinder has to run harder, like a little short-leg guy, or a short guy like me compared to, a basketball player. I mean, I can run as fast and they can just trot. And so that's the difference between a V8 engine and a little four-cylinder, because a four-cylinder has to, because of the cubic inches, because it's a smaller engine, it has to turn faster and higher RPMs to really match the performance of a V8. Now, what the manufacturers have done, and this is way cool, they're using more turbochargers. And what is a turbocharger? I mean, I know that's maybe a simple question, but a turbocharger is a device that is a turbine that uses the exhaust of an engine, which is expelled air, to turn a wheel, and that wheel has a shaft that goes through and turns an opposing wheel, and that wheel forces air in. And it's kind of round robin if you think about it. It's the biggest bang for the buck that you can get. For like 17 pounds of plumbing gives you a 40% increase in horsepower. It's amazing. So the exhaust goes out, spins the wheel. That wheel spins another wheel that forces air into the engine when you open the throttle. And that air increases the exhaust that goes out, which increases the air that goes in. And you say, well, could that eventually blow an engine? Absolutely. So there are waste gates. And a waste gate is when that engine reaches critical pressure, which depends on the fuel, and that's why premium fuel is required on most turbocharged engines. And of course, if an engine is turbocharged and doesn't require premium fuel, like say the Ford EcoBoost, all that really means, folks, is that you're leaving horsepower on the table, because what Ford Motor Company has done with their EcoBoost is they've tuned that engine to accept low-octane fuel so that you would be happy because you would not be forced to buy premium fuel, and they would sell more trucks. Because you're not going to buy a vehicle, many of you would not want to buy a vehicle that forces you to use premium gasoline. Now, my car calls for premium, and it's not supercharged or turbocharged, but it has 11.5-to-1 compression ratio. And it's a luxury car. It's a four-door luxury car. But it has, for that 5-liter engine, tremendous torque. And torque is that seat of the pants drawing away when you accelerate, and horsepower is that top engine speed. So that's a whole different animal, horsepower and torque. Torque is where you get your MPG. So what Ford did with their EcoBoost, which is really kind of neat, they increased the turbo pressure and to give that engine its torque at 2,000 RPM. In fact, the torque curve, and the torque curve is there's always a peak horsepower and RPM, and there's always a peak torque and RPM. So there's what's called a sweet spot. Like if you're, depending on your physical size and shape and your leg length, you can trot at a certain pace all day long because it just falls into place. Well, that's the way an engine does. There are certain paces that engine loves to fall into. Now, the trick is, and I say the trick, the challenge is to broaden that pace so that engine can be in its sweet spot at not at just 2,000 or 2,400 RPM, because that just means that you have to be at a certain speed on the highway for that engine to be in its sweet spot, or accelerating up. So here's the trick, and this is really cool, really cool. Here's the trick. You want the engine to be in its sweet spot from the get-go, from the very beginning when you accelerate away from a traffic light, or as quickly as possible. So you want that torque to be up and to the left, not up and to the right. You want the torque curve to be immediately up at the lowest RPM, the left-hand side of a graph. So the lowest RPM. And what Ford did, and quite candidly, they didn't know. It's not that they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know this engine would have such a flat torque curve until they got it on the dyno after they first engineered it and had all the patents. And this has been several years ago, of course. But when they came out with that EcoBoost, the twin turbo, that engine has a flat torque curve from 2,000 to 5,000 RPM. That's never been done before. That had never been done before. Now, what does that mean? It means that engine, its sweet spot, kicks in at 2,000 RPM and lasts all the way to 5,000 RPM. So you couple that with a two-speed transmission, and you've got a pretty flat curve, and you've got good torque and good MPG. You couple it with a 5-speed, hey, it gets better. And why? Because remember, you want the engine to be in its sweet spot at different road speeds. So what did Ford do? They come out with a 10-speed transmission. That's right, 10-speed transmission. In fact, Ford and GM worked on this together. They came out with a 10-speed transmission, and just for the record, Ford, a couple of years ago, filed for a patent on an 11-speed transmission. So they're already thinking about adding another gear. Why another gear? Well, because if you're going 10 miles an hour, you could have a very low gear, like a granny low, we call it, in a tractor. And if you're going 110 miles an hour, you can have a very high gear. And so the engine can be in its sweet spot almost regardless of what road speed. And what is the average road speed? Well, it's got to be somewhere between 35 miles per hour in town to 80 miles per hour or 85 miles per hour on the road. So if you can get that engine, if you're going 85, is the engine turning more RPM than if you're going 35? Well, sure it is, unless you've got a 10-speed transmission. And then you just click, 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 click. And as you go up faster and the road speed increases, you just increase the gear. And so that slows the engine down. Higher road speed, slow that engine down. Higher road, you see how it all works? And what you can do is you can be assured that you're going to get the best gas mileage and lower RPM. In lower RPM, you take two engines that are identical. If one is turning 2,000 RPM and one is turning 1,950 RPM, the one that's turning 1,950 uses less fuel than the one that's turning 2,000. So kick it in a higher gear. Now it's turning 1,800. Oh, gas mileage. Kick into the next gear. Now it's turning 1,600. Oh, gas mileage. But it's tougher to climb those hills when you've got it into that higher gear. So what do? They use the turbocharger and they increase the boost of the turbocharger. But what happens when the boost exceeds the fuel's ability to withstand the pressure created by the boost inside remember, it is the pressure that is pushing the piston down that turns the rear wheels through the transmission. So what do? Well, you can boost the octane, and when you boost the octane, you can keep the pressure higher. So you can, you say, well, where does it all end? And folks, that's the good news, and it's what keeps me really interested in the automotive industry and the new technology, is that just when you think you've reached the peak of something, you really haven't, because what that does is opens other doors, causes other problems, just like in the Indy 500 recently, the Honda lost some engines. Honda had 10 more horsepower than the Chevrolet-powered engines there. And of course, Honda did win the race. First Japanese driver to ever win the race. He's got to be a happy camper. And the Honda engines, but Honda lost a lot of engines too. They had engines to blow up. I mean, they're running down they run 220 miles an hour. Poof, the engine blows up. Why? Because what they did, and of course they all know why after the race, because they ran that engine for that 500-mile Indy race, and they had 10 more horsepower than the preceding engine. And so what they did, they increased the pressures, which increased the load, which found the weak spot. You see how it all works? I'll take your calls. I'm sorry I didn't invite you before, but I will. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Your AC blowing hot air? Well, you need immediate relief for sure. Check out Murray AC Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. You can take advantage of the Do It Right rebate and earn a $50 O'Reilly gift card by mail when you buy a Murray AC compressor, expansion device, and accumulator or dryer. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts during Murray AC Month and save money. O'Reilly Auto parts, better better prices every day. Your calls when I come back, 888-227-2546. Miss Jan is ready to take your calls at 888-227-2546. I'm Bobby Likis. Stick around, like us. You'll love us. You're moving fast and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. Be sure the next time your car needs a new battery, you choose one with PowerFrame grid technology inside. It's not only 66% more durable than other grid designs, it's manufactured with the latest and most sustainable processes. Look for PowerFrame on the outside for true strength on the inside. Visit PowerFrame.com to find a retailer near you. That's PowerFrame.com. What can open and close hundreds of times a day on your vehicle? Your vehicle's thermostat, which performs two critical jobs: accelerates engine warm-up and regulates engine operating temperature. With so much at stake, like engine wear, fuel economy, emissions, and cold weather drivability, choose a thermostat professional installers choose. Stant. Stant's Superstat is premium grade and features a heavier gauge stainless steel housing and larger heat motor for optimal temperature control. For more Superstat advantages, visit Stant. We recently had an 08 Ford Expedition come into the shop, and the owner was complaining about an awful burning smell after driving the car any distance. After giving the vehicle a once-over, we found leaking valve cover gaskets which were allowing oil to run down onto the exhaust manifold. The entire engine bay was also covered with a fine film of oil from a bad power steering hose. We needed to clean everything first so we could accurately diagnose and fix the problem quickly. We used Berryman B33 engine degreaser and sprayed it onto a cool engine. We let it sit for a short time, then rinsed it off, leaving everything clean and oil-free. Once we replaced the hose and the valve cover gaskets, the Ford was ready to get back on the road. Berryman B33 engine degreaser was perfect for this job. The fast spray-on, rinse-off cycle saves time and conserves water. The product's also safe to use. Its biodegradable formula contains no harmful phosphates, solvents, abrasives, or VOCs. Learn more about Berryman B33 degreaser and other great Berryman products at berrymanproducts.com. That's berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your hosts, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join me today. I was just talking with Jonathan Sloan, and he said, what about your Porsche air conditioner? You know, share that story. And I said, well, I might a little bit later in the program. And folks, as you know, if you're a frequent listener to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, that I own a classic 1980 Weissach, W-E-I-S-S-A-C-H, or Weissach, as they call it in Germany. That's the proving grounds for Porsche in Germany. And from 1980 through 1985, Porsche imported zero, legally, well, I say legally. They offered no turbo Porsches, 911s, to the American, to the USA from the years 80 through 85. You could buy a turbo through what was called a gray market, and that would be through Canada, and then you had to modify it to make it meet emissions, but the value of those cars is zip. But this particular car that I have is a classic vehicle. Anyway, more about that later, and I may fill that in. But first, let's go to Maggie in Missouri, and then we've got Todd in Louisiana. Maggie, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding.
Well, thank you. Okay, I wanted to ask you a question about my 94 Buick Century that I'm still driving. Some years ago, I had to have my compressor for my air conditioner changed out.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, because, you know, it wasn't working, but in that, all I had on my ticket was a compressor, and there was a belt put on that. But prior to the problem was when you raised the hood, you could see metal shavings and stuff, you know, inside there. But anyway, someone worked on my car, and I guess for about a week and a half or something, when I got my car back, I had air. I mean, it blew cool air and stuff like that. But then it started diminishing, and I had to take the car back to the person, and he said that it just needed about half a can of Freon.
Uh-oh.
Well, that wasn't the problem.
No.
Because, apparently because it stopped working again totally, and I just didn't do anything about it at all. I just wondered if, someone mentioned to me that possibly the orifice needed to be changed out when I had it worked on, and it wasn't. But somehow, maybe they said that maybe the metal shavings were still being circulated throughout the system and stopped it up again or something. Can you give me any input on that, and can I get it fixed?
I sure can, Maggie. Here's the problem. The compressor is just like a water pump, or
Mm-hmm.
and like your heart. So the compressor pumps liquid coolant, refrigerant, not coolant. The coolant's in the radiator. Pumps liquid refrigerant through a condenser. Of course, when you create pressure, you create heat, and so you have to keep that cool. And so you push that liquid refrigerant through a condenser, which is a radiator, but it's in front of the car's radiator, and that condenser has coils that take up some of the heat out, and then that liquid refrigerant goes to that orifice you're talking about, and that orifice it's called an expansion valve, or an orifice which replaced the old-fashioned expansion valve, and that orifice is exactly what its name implies. You've got high pressure, like a fuel injector. You've got high pressure liquid on one side, and then it goes from, let's say, 200 psi down to 25 psi in the evaporator. So the evaporator is also a radiator, but that's a radiator inside the car. And so what the evaporator does, that liquid refrigerant, by its properties, when it evaporates, it's like alcohol on your arm. When it evaporates, the alcohol goes away and it cools your arm. When refrigerant evaporates, it cools that evaporator core. Now, it would just evaporate into the air if you turned it loose, into the air if you let it loose. But when it's in the core, it's trapped. So then, as it cools and it cools that core, the air inside your car is blown over that core, and that takes the heat out of the air inside the car. So that's how that works. Now, what happens is that same refrigerant that is now a gas is pulled back into the compressor, and it starts to cycle over again. So all refrigerant systems as we know them on automobiles, are liquid to gas, to a gaseous state. Liquid, evaporation, gas, liquid, gas. And that's round robin. Now, what happens that in that circulation, there's a sump in the compressor for oil, but there's oil like 3 or 3.5, 4 ounces in the evaporator core and 3.5, 4 ounces in the condenser. And this oil has to be viscous. It has to mix with the refrigerant, and so it travels through the system too. And that's why when you have an evaporator core leak or a compressor, you see oil run out, because you can't see the refrigerant because it evaporates, it goes away. It's invisible. So I share all this not to confuse you, but to help you understand and those who are listening that whenever a compressor goes out, and if it does get into metal, which you said yours had metal in the system. I don't know how you saw that. Were you talking about metal that you saw after they took the compressor off, or did you see metal on the outside like the clutch was burned up?
Well, I could see, this was all before I took it to a shop. I could, you could raise the hood and see just tiny metal shavings down in, around the motor and
right.
stuff.
Okay. Okay. But see, that's on the outside of the system, and so there's a difference because you can't see if the compressor itself was destroyed inside or going away, going bad, and making metal, as we say. You wouldn't be able to see that. However, what ultimately would happen, if that happened, is it would try to lock up, and the clutch, which is a magnetic clutch, would try to spin it, and it would say, I don't want to turn, and the clutch says, well, you're going to turn, and the engine has the power to turn it even if it doesn't want to turn. It'll twist it in two, and it does. It'll break the crankshaft of the compressor before that clutch burns up, or in the process both burn up, both are destroyed. What you saw was the clutch going away into pieces, probably because the compressor did burn up. So here's what happens, and here's what needs to be done. Number one, whenever a compressor, and yours, and this is specific to, and so I'm getting to the answer immediately now, finally, this is your compressor, if it self-destructed, the system would be contaminated with metal. You cannot get the metal out. So what we do is we use a chemical flush, and we flush the condenser both ways. We put liquid in it, and we disconnect both ends, and we force air through it, and both ways. In some cases, we replace the condenser because because some of those metal parts find a little nook and cranny in there, and once you get the system back up and running, the system relaxes again and comes up to pressure, and that metal shavings are going to go right back and stop up the orifice tube and damage the new compressor. So most companies that sell compressors, if you don't replace the filter dryer, so there's a filter in there, and it's called a filter dryer because it has a desiccant bag, because no moisture can be in the system. So and I'm sure that if you look on your receipt, you'll have the AC compressor and then an accumulator or a filter dryer. That should be on that ticket, because that would be assurance. And so you take a look at your repair order, and you must see on that repair order with your air conditioner assembly the filter dryer or accumulator. That's what it's called. And
okay, well, that was not on my ticket at all.
Well, I have heartburn with that. That's not a full repair, and I have an issue with that, because you don't take a car with a burned up compressor. You don't even open the system unless you replace the dryer, because the filter dryer desiccant bag the humidity, if you leave the system open for a week, when we take systems apart, we immediately put tape over the end of the hose so that we don't expose the system to atmosphere. And of course air gets in there, but what we do is we pull a vacuum, and that's what's part of the charging in our charging station. We pull a vacuum on the system and let it sit for a while, because moisture boils in a vacuum. So any moisture that got into a system during the repair, which means always gets moisture in there, then we pull a vacuum, and that boils that moisture out, and then we go back in and charge the system. So What needs to be done here is your car needs a filter dryer replaced or accumulator. Someone needs to pull the orifice tube out and look at it to make sure. But you could back up, and you've already told me that you were half a pound low on refrigerant. If that's the case, you got a leak in the system, and ultimately, my fear for you is, my concern is that you have a leaking evaporator core, because it is time for your 94 model car to have had one, and that evaporator core means the whole dash has to come apart and the HVAC box has to come out. So you put all that together, and you're talking $1,000, $1,200 in air conditioner repair. But if the car is good, in good shape overall, and you like the car, you got to have the AC. I mean, you can't drive a car without AC. The defroster doesn't work. You got to be comfortable in the car. So that's what I would go back or I would get a second opinion, and people can. In a business, they can check for leaks. We have electronic test device, and we have some also dye that we can put in a system that will ultraviolet light will show you where the system is bleeding. So that's what I would do. That's the first thing. And if you're not comfortable with the shop, find another shop there in Missouri, and call the station, KREI. I have found that the folks at our affiliates across the country. And think about it, for local sponsors, they know every business almost in town, because they've gone to every business and said, do you want to sponsor this program? So if I were you, Maggie, I would call. If you don't have a service shop that you trust or that you frequent, I would call the station and ask them, give us the name of a trusted Better Business Bureau local service shop, or you can go to asashop.org, and you'll find a half a dozen right there within 5-10 miles of your home. And that's asashop.org. And ASA is the Automotive Service Association, of which I'm a proud member and have been for 30-40 years. So the bottom line, that's a lot of information, but ultimately you'll have to go to a shop and have your system diagnosed. But you want to make sure that they pull the orifice and inspect it, and they check the pressures before they do that, and they also replace the filter dryer. And get an opinion, get an estimate, and call me next week. And folks, I'll be back in a short. Dear Bobby, while traveling, my 08 Subaru needed to have a tire replaced due to a puncture. I could not find the exact tire and used an off-brand instead. Different brand, but same size. Could this cause problems for my all-wheel drive vehicle? Tire diameter is critical, especially on all-wheel drive vehicles. Using the same size from different manufacturers can create enough of a difference to be an issue, even with just one tire. Not to mention the differences in tread wear levels. The vehicle could shudder on turns. It could even damage the all-wheel drive system. In some vehicles, the all-wheel drive system becomes disabled and won't work at all. Vehicle manufacturers state the concern about mismatched tires and diameter differences through their service departments and technical service bulletins. Some vehicle manufacturers actually require replacement tires in sets of 4 to help avoid any issues. Buying off-brand tires can also be a problem because not all brands have nationwide coverage. This is just one of the reasons we recommend General Tire so frequently, as they're available coast to coast. Learn more at GeneralTire.com. That's GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Earlier, if you caught the front of the show, the first segment of the program, you heard me talking about torque and gas mileage and RPMs and road speeds and gears and 10-speed gears and boost. I use the EcoBoost engine because that's well known, and it has twin turbos. That engine is detuned from the factory. And I'm not going to get into that right now, but before the end of this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, I do want to share with you, I'm going to be giving away a dash pack that is made by Super Chips. And this, if you drive a Ford or a GM or a Jeep or a Chrysler product, you're leaving horsepower and torque and MPG on the table, under the hood, untapped. Because there are programs and reprogrammers that are on the market, and Super Chips makes one of those called a dash pack. I'll tell you about that in a bit. First, I want to go back to the phones, but it's important because this is like a $450, $500 gift that actually Super Chips is going to provide for me to give away. And so one of the Car Clinic listeners out there is going to be getting one, and that could be you. So if you drive one of those vehicles, you know, the GM product, and this is especially if you've got a truck, an EcoBoost Ford F-150 or Silverado, those are a Dodge Ram or Hemi. How cool. There's a lot of horsepower. And remember, as I said earlier, and here's the takeaway here, you can, with a turbocharger or a supercharger, explode the engine. You can force more air than what the piston and the fuel can take. And so there are safeguards that, and so when a manufacturer offers these engines, they detune the engine because they want a safety guard, because they know that you may put cheap gas in it. So even though the car calls for premium, you still put cheap gas in it because the engine has knock sensors, and it will detune the engine to a lower performance state. You won't get the performance, but you won't damage the engine. So there's room in there to retune and reprogram the computer. It's way cool. I'll tell you about it. But first, let's go to Todd in Louisiana. Todd, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding.
Hey, Bobby. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure. Sure.
I've got a 2015 Silverado, and I'm sure you're aware of the AC problems in the 2014 through 17 Silverados, Sierras, Yukons, Tahoes, etc. I've been looking online, and there's been a lot of folks that have had trouble with it. Now, the warranty, that covers the AC system runs out at $36,000, and the AC went out at $44,000.
Right.
And I'm thinking it may be the high end line.
High
but
pressure.
I don't know for sure. Yeah, and today I'm going to be driving from New Orleans back to my hometown over there in Gulf Breeze. I'm going to be over there for a week.
Right.
And not having AC in this thing is killing me.
Oh,
And
I know. I'm with you.
I went to the dealership, and I don't know if it's going to need a condenser, but they said the condenser's on back order till October. I mean, that's how big of a problem they're having with these things. And looking online, it looks like a lot of them are that high-end line because it's not braced well and it vibrates and creates a leak. But some of them, the compressor has gone out. And my question is, now I bought one of those aftermarket warranties.
Right.
And my question is, if I went and to O'Reilly's or something and bought one of those little cans and put some Freon in the system, would that void that warranty, when I can finally take it in and get the AC fixed?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
in the first place, who says you're going to do that? I mean, here's the bottom line. All you're doing is putting refrigerant back in it. As long as you don't overfill the system, if it's out of Freon, well, not Freon, but what R134A, if it's out of refrigerant, then that AC Pro is and I've used that on my own car, and it doesn't fix anything, but it sure gives you some comfort. So I would have no issues with that at all. I can only tell you what I would do. It doesn't affect your warranty, aftermarket warranty, for you to have it Freon added to it, or refrigerant added to it. So you can go to O'Reilly Auto Parts and buy one of those quick shots. It's an AC Pro, and it has a gauge on it, and you attach it to the low pressure line and pull the trigger. So I would have no. If I were in your shoes, that's exactly what I would do, and I wouldn't worry about it. And then when you get back home, you find a local shop and they test it, and you'll have to pay for the testing because the aftermarket warranty won't pay for all of the diagnostics, but they'll pay for the parts. But and as far as parts for General Motors, I can get any AC part for GM car made.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
we have. I tell you, the aftermarket is a fantastic. The parts that we get, and O'Reilly Auto Parts is just down the street from us. I can throw a football if I could throw a football. And then hey, I got another call. I got to go, but by all means, make yourself comfortable. Drive home.
Okay. Well, while I'm over there, I'm going to be off this week. I may bring it by and to the shop and maybe. I don't know how backed up you guys are. Maybe have y'all fix it.
Let me put you back on hold, and you talk to Miss Jan, and she'll give you the name of my team here, and we'd be honored to have your business. But the first thing is look at your car and see what it needs, and then have a discussion face to face. That's what we specialize in, and my team's the best at it. So let's put you back. And thank you for calling me, Todd. We'll put you back on hold. Don't go away. And now let's go to Nebraska and take a call from Katie. Katie, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding.
Yes, hi, Bobby. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Got a bit of a puzzle for you, hoping to get some insight on.
Okay.
We have a 2003 Envoy that we purchased back in January. And a little bit of background, the body of it has 162,000, but the engine was replaced, and the different engine has 137,000 on it.
Okay.
Seems to drive really well. We did have a small vacuum leak fixed after we purchased it, but a couple of known things that may or may not be connected with our problem. The problem is it randomly dies, and it is very random. Might be 2 to 3 weeks between incidences, but and it's pretty much a daily driver. It dies at idle or like if it's in park, it can just die randomly, or if it's say in reverse or even drive, but I haven't gassed it yet. And the first time it happened, I was in sand, and I was in drive, and it just died. So it's kind of like if it's under load without gas, or in an idle.
So let me ask a question, Katie.
Sure.
What you're telling me is that the vehicle. Has the vehicle ever died as you're cruising down the road, or does it die when the throttle is off?
That's right. When the throttle is off, never when we're cruising. So
that tells me that you could have an EGR or a throttle body issue. because a crank sensor, which also would cause a problem like that, it would act up because a crank sensor doesn't know idle from 50 miles an hour.
Okay.
You know, other than the fact that the current's flowing through it more often, but it's not a movable. It doesn't move. There's nothing in it that moves. But the throttle that controls the air that goes in the engine, that determines the idle, and the fuel control, those affect an engine. And also the let's see, at an idle. Well, it's possible you could have a electronic ignition. But I doubt it. That would cause some misfires at like 35, 40, 45. And check engine, does the check engine light come on?
It doesn't. Mm-mm. So, and two other things, and this may not be connected at all.
Okay.
So, but we do know there's a problem with the torque converter, and it's not been fixed yet because it drives fine. The only time we see that problem is if we're on hills and cruising about 40, 45 miles per hour when it's about to shift into overdrive.
Mm-hmm.
The RPMs will waver because it's not quite sure what to do. But otherwise, we never see an issue with it, so we haven't worried about getting it fixed yet. And there is a buzzing sound that we've noticed since purchase, and it does coincide with acceleration and the shifting of the gears.
Right.
So I'm not sure that has any
well,
connection to the dying.
It only in as much as if the torque converter clutch was not releasing. Because see, if the torque converter clutch kicks in, then the converter becomes a standard transmission. That automatic transmission in your Envoy is now a locked up device, and locked up means it's solid. In other words, if you put and a torque converter is a fluid drive, so if you put your hand in a bathtub and push the water, you can cause the water to overflow if it were full because you're pushing water. So if you contained and pushed enough water, you could really force something to move, and it's like a prop does in a boat. Well, that's similar to what a turbine does in an automatic transmission, but that costs you gas mileage. So all manufacturers have what's called lock-up converters, so that once it reaches like your 45 miles per hour, there's an electric solenoid in the transmission, and the transmission computer controller makes that converter lock up. Well, now you're not pushing water or transmission fluid. You have a solid connection, just like you lock a deadbolt in a door. That's a solid connection. So that means that when you stop the car, if that converter is not released, then that solid connection, when the car stops, the engine is connected to the rear wheels, and the rear wheels are stopped, and the engine's running. Something's got to give. So, but I really don't think that's your problem, but that could be. So you need to have a technician ride with you. The challenge that you have is you have an erratic behavior automobile, and so it's never going to do. Never. I won't use the word never. Rarely, if ever, will it act up. You know, for you it's a tail of the Hun. For me, it's mismanners. That's what I.
Right.
I feel your pain. So here's what needs to be done. I would sincerely, and that's called a torque converter clutch solenoid. And the torque converter clutch solenoid is the electronic device that disengages the lockup converter. Now, it may not have anything to do with it, but you mentioned that you've got this buzzing noise, and so you could have a converter that's locking up, and then when it gets to a traffic light, it's like driving a standard transmission, and you don't push the clutch in. Hey, something's got to die. Either the motor's got to die or the wheels got to spin, and of course, but the engine doesn't have a power enough to turn the wheels, therefore it shuts down. So that's what I would recommend. I recommend before you spend any money, find your local technician and have that person to ride with you. You drive the vehicle and show that person what your car's doing you don't like. Now, is it going to die? Probably not, but at least you can show the buzz, and you can explain what you did to me, and then you can get on the same page. And then the next step would be to pay for 1 hour of diagnostic. 1 hour of, I hesitate I don't like the word diagnostics, because that infers that if I spend an hour diagnosing your vehicle, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with it. Well, like a doctor, one test is a blood test. Another test is a heart stress test. Another test is an MRI. So when we test vehicles, we test for trouble codes, we test for pressures, fuel pressure, we test a lot of parameters of the control. And if 1 hour can cover X amount, then you pay 1 hour. But often, quite often, we have to ask for more testing time because we haven't confirmed or found any guilty parties in that first hour. You see where I'm going?
Yes, I do.
So,
I will.
but you can't give.
Mechanic.
Yeah, but you can't give your car and a blank check to a shop and say, well, spend money per hour until you find the problem. That's where the rapport comes in with a shop. So the only way you're going to get from where you are to where you need to be, Katie, is to have a personal relationship with a shop. You got it?
Gotcha.
I mean, that's what it's going to take. And I really appreciate you calling me, and I wish I had a magic, wand for you, but I sincerely want you to connect with the shop, and if you call the shop and say, could you ride with me, and you can tell how someone's going to treat you over the phone. If you don't feel comfortable by calling a shop, call another shop.
Okay.
And you can use the asashop.org to find a half a dozen shops in your own town. Anybody can anywhere. And I really appreciate you calling me and your confidence and trust in me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. Have a good day.
You as well. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
And folks, I share with you something. Let me share. This is about the Super Chips Dash Pack that I'm going to be giving away the 24th of this month. It's an in-cab monitor and performance tuner. Covers gas and diesel trucks and SUVs. You use a button interface to switch between layouts, select performance settings, and more. You can load your own personal background images and save as wallpaper. This is the neatest, and it's a $400 or $500 item, and we're going to be giving one away. And for more information, go to superchips.com. It's called the Dash Pack, DASHPAQ. It is the coolest thing, and a lucky Car Clinic listener is going to have one. So if you drive a GM, a Ford, a Chrysler, or a Jeep, your car fits under the umbrella of this reprogrammer. That's June 24th. Mark your calendars. Superchip.com. Thank you for tuning in this hour. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, recently we had a four-cylinder 2014 Nissan Frontier in the shop. The customer said the vehicle wasn't running well, nothing specific, but fuel mileage was down and the vehicle had lost its zip. As he explained, it's a manual transmission, so I know what it should feel like, and it's just not right. The suggested maintenance and ignition service were up to date, and there were no trouble codes. So what was the problem? The answer lies with today's complex engines. While the maintenance schedule was on time, engines today are prone to carbon deposit formation, and fuel system cleaning is a key piece of the puzzle. Professional fuel system cleaning is an option, but a less expensive alternative is the use of a pour-in fuel system cleaner. We use Berryman B12 Chem Tool in the shop. It features Berryman's proprietary high-energy solvent, or HEST technology. We poured a bottle of Berryman B12 Chem Tool into the Frontier, and after just one tank of gas, MPG improved and the vehicle regained its zippiness. For more information, drive to BerrymanProducts.com. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Count down to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning, folks. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house. The next hour or so, ride along with me. We'll talk cars. I'll take your car questions, and we have just completed our first segment, the first hour rather, of Bobby Likis Car Clinic for today, and this is our second hour. Some of our affiliates will air one or the other or both hours, but just rest assured you can always go to watchbobbylive.com and tune in live from anywhere on the globe. It's really way cool to say hello to the camera. It's all HD, and we've got a great connection with our YouTube channel. And the team here does a great job. Miss Jan will take your calls, and Fabio runs the board, and Jonathan keeps everybody in line and helps me with information as I need it, and sometimes I do. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by Super Chips and the new Flash Pack F5 Performance Tuners. You can add horsepower in minutes without even turning a wrench or opening the hood. It is the coolest thing. If you heard me talking about it earlier today, it's a flash pack. It's a beautiful Super Chips flash pack. Drive to superchips.com and check it out. You need to know this because June 24th, I'll be giving away a dash pack that is absolutely unbelievable. It adds horsepower, torque, and MPG. I'll come back to take your calls after this short break. Don't touch that dial.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts, and your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with power frame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with power frame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with power frame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with power frame technology inside. Look for power frame on the outside and know there's true strength on the inside.
Time for another question from the Car Clinic inbox. Dear Bobby, I recently had my 2012 Hyundai Sonata serviced, and the dealer mentioned I'm going to be needing tires soon. I haven't shopped for tires in a while. Do you have any recommendations? Well, that was an easy question for me to answer, folks. Since the Hyundai was new just 5 years ago, tire technology has improved greatly. Not just rubber compound and tread design, but features have been added to help both the vehicle owner and mechanic alike assess both vehicle and tire condition. General Tire, for example, now offers many tires that feature both alignment and tread wear indicators built in. These indicators will tell both the novice and the trained eye when the tire needs to be replaced and when the vehicle's out of alignment. Now is an especially good time to be shopping for tires. General Tire is offering up to $70 on a prepaid Visa gift card when you purchase 4 qualifying tires. And with new tires like the G-Max AS05, the selection has never been better. Find your next set of tires at GeneralTire.com. That's GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win.
For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at lendingtree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Miss Jen will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. That number is 888-227-2546. Put you in a queue, and I'll put you on the air if you have a question about almost about anything in the automotive world. In the meantime, automotive world, let's go to our Detroit Car Clinic reporter, Jim. Welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking about all things automotive. How are you today, sir?
Well, I'm doing really good, Bobby. Looking forward to about 3:30 when across the country they'll broadcast the Grand Prix from Belle Isle.
I hear you.
An exciting race and good weather.
The only thing wrong with that, sir, is I'm not going to be there.
Well, Bobby, you know you're always welcome.
I hear you. I hear you. What'd you bring us today, Jim?
Okay, Bobby, what I'm really impressed about is the new V90 Volvo car, which is a station wagon. It comes with all-wheel drive, 315 horsepower, and an automatic feature for hill descent. And it looks like a very fantastic car when you look for it on the internet or go to a dealer and see it. Either way, it's a classic sight, and it looks dynamic for tomorrow. Let's put it that way.
So what's the name of the car?
It's the Volvo V90. It's a station wagon version.
Oh, okay. I got you. Well, you know, Volvo was first known for its safety. And for years, that was the reason that people actually bought those cars. Like the song Country Before Country Was Cool, Volvo was into the safety factor before that was really a hot spot for car buyers. And to that end, when Ford Motor Company offered seatbelts, they were offered as an option. People didn't even want them because they said, I'm not wearing a seatbelt, I'm driving a car. I'm not, that was many years ago, but and a lot has changed since then. And so it doesn't surprise me that Volvo excels in that an arena. I'm glad to see that Volvo has changed their styling because Volvo fell behind on the new curve, or curves, if you will, in my opinion. And so they've really started to push back up to the top now. That's great. It's great. They make a great car. What else did you bring us, sir?
Okay, Bobby, according to the latest production report, GM has gone down 0.2 in sales in the last month, and yet Ford went up. But again, that's going to swing back the other way when Ford doesn't sell certain models this month, and GM will come back up. But the car dealers are learning that if they overstock cars, the people get bargains on the outside, but really your biggest sale for GM or Ford or any company is not to lease a car, but to sell a car. It's a good introduction to get people to try cars, or if it matches them for their retirement and they use low mileage and they prefer a car every 2 years. I'm beginning to think that if one purchases a lease and don't drive much, it's a good deal.
I think that leases, I know that it's most difficult to understand the numbers of a lease. I know this because I have leased, and I leased with a purpose. And my CPA advised me not to lease if I felt that I was going to keep the car. But I thought that when I bought this car and leased this car, that in 3 years, a new body style would be out, and I would just turn it in and lease another one. And also the technology would be 3 years advanced, so I was more enthused or excited about the newer technology of a 2013, which is the year that my car is that I bought when the lease was up, because it's a one-off. But I will say that I would like to have heads-up display. I would like to have Apple CarPlay. I would like to have a better screen. I would like to have 4 cameras on my car, and I would like to have the radar control for cruise that allows it to latch onto the car in front of me. Those are all upgrades that were available in different lines, but not in one automobile. And I don't know of any car on the road today that has all those, but I'm sure that there could be. But no doubt that was the reason I leased. And leases can be great because you can get into a lease with a little or no money down. You can get a really expensive car with a note payment that is more affordable. The challenge is you're not buying any equity. So if you're going to keep a car, there's no doubt, buy that car. But when you buy that car, Jim, and so many people don't think about this, they look at the payment of a car, and let's say the payment's $500 a month or $300 a month. That's not the only payment. You have wear and tear. $100 a month is what you should ultimately set aside for maintenance and repairs over the life of that car. Now, the first year or 2 or 3, you won't spend $100 a month. But the second group of years, the 4th, 5th, and 6th, you will. I mean, there's tires, there's brakes, there's steering components, and then there's breakdowns or breakups. So those are too often, and insurance, those are numbers that often are not included in leases and often not included when you go to buy a car. And, we had a local car dealer on this program several months ago, Ivan Streckel, the largest independent car dealer on the Gulf Coast, does a whale of a job. And that's a gentleman that, escaped from the wall in Berlin, and it was a great story, and he's an entrepreneur and very successful, and runs a fantastic operation, Frontier Motors, right here in Pensacola, Florida. But he's the only one I know of that will give you signed a check for your car if you're selling it, or the out-the-door price of a car if you're buying one. So he doesn't play games, and I think that we need more people like that. Let me turn the mic back to you. What else did you bring us?
Okay, Bobby, I'm really still interested in a choice of a cruise, and I think the new cruise that can get 52 miles per gallon for my daughter is a good choice because she likes to do some highway driving, and you're not going to get that 52 miles per gallon on most gas cars.
Well, no.
I don't think it's a hard deal to find gas. Every station has a pump for diesel gas. And I don't know if I'm wrong, but I think they start better in the winter. Most people that I know that own one say low temperatures are not a hassle for a diesel car.
Well, that's history. Diesels now, they're clean burning, they run well. They work well. Just ask VW; they'll tell you how clean they are. Well, oops, excuse me, I didn't mean to go there. Well, they had their share of problems with clean diesels have particulate matter and the particulates, which are little small particles of exhaust, can be a challenge to clean up, and so they have filters, exhaust filters. Really cool. But anyway, what else? In closing, what else, Jim?
Okay, in closing, Bobby, I want to say that the new Harley-Davidson problem is where the car can cause an accident by the oil dripping in a disconnect. Harley admits that some of the guys might not have installed it properly, and there's only been 2 accidents and no serious injury. But you should check your Harley before you get trouble.
Hey, that sounds good to me. I think you should check a two-wheeler pretty often before you get on one. Hey, Jim, always good to hear from you. Take care, and we look forward to your next week's program.
Look forward to it, Bobby. Bye-bye.
Bye. And let's go to Danny and take a call from Danny in Florida. And folks, now is a great time to get in at 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Danny, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, Bobby, I had an interesting situation happen 15 minutes ago. My sister said when she made a turn around a corner with her little Mitsubishi, about a 94, I think it is,
Okay.
it would make noise like the belt was squealing. Well, that's an obvious fix. You pop the hood and you put a little power steering fluid in the power steering, location. And I popped the hood, and sure enough, power steering was very low. And I said, "Do you have any power steering fluid with you?" "Oh, yeah, I do." I said, "Okay." So I popped the top, started put. "Oh, no, that's the wrong place. You put it up here in the brake master cylinder." She's been putting power steering fluid in the brake master cylinder for quite a number of years. And I wonder if there's a fix for putting that hydraulic fluid in a waterborne brake fluid situation.
The fix is to completely replace every rubber. I mean, you know the answer.
I know the answer, but I wanted to hear it from you.
You
just
got
to make
it.
her happy.
Replace the master cylinder. That's number one. Replace all of the brake hoses. That's number two. Replace the calipers and the wheel cylinders, and that's number three. And make sure you flush all the lines out. And that's the only way that's going to be cured. And I don't see how she could possibly have been putting oil in the brakes and not have the brakes lock up all these years. That's really strange to me. Okay, folks, a short break. Your calls when I return. Folks, we're testing an Intune i2 performance programmer from Diablo Sport, and we'll share feedback and results over the next few months. First is ease of installation. Directions were clear and the setup was easy. The Intune i2 is preloaded with dyno and street-tested performance programs developed specifically for your car or truck, ensuring optimal power and drivability gains. From there, you can then customize a tune tailored to your own performance needs. What a great way to boost power without even popping the hood. Diablo Sport Intune i2 has a fantastic look and now features the latest generation ARM processor for a higher resolution screen and an exceptionally responsive touchpad. You can update your i2 software on virtually any computer, Windows, Mac, Linux, and update times are fast. Even the large updates take no more than 5 minutes. I'll report more to you about the Intune i2 in the coming weeks. In the meantime, check out the i2 for yourself at DiabloSport.com. That's DiabloSport.com. Let's dive into another Car Clinic email. Dear Bobby, my vehicle has just gone out of warranty. It has 48,000 miles, and now all maintenance is my responsibility. Can you suggest a maintenance checklist? I'd like to keep this vehicle long-term. Assuming your vehicle is about 4 years old and has just under 50,000 miles on the odometer, we suggest starting with the fluids. Think brake fluid, transmission fluid, and of course coolant. The cooling system is often overlooked. While coolant and cooling systems have evolved through the years, they still need service. Have the cooling system flushed and refilled with a proper antifreeze coolant for your specific vehicle, and inspect all belts and hoses. And don't forget the thermostat and radiator cap. Complete the system service with a new Stant Superstat and a new Stant radiator pressure cap. This is a great way to extend the life of all cooling system components and add reliability to your vehicle. Stant products meet or exceed OE quality in both fit and function. Learn more at Stant.com. That's Stant.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your hosts, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you in part by PowerFrame Grid Technology. Folks, batteries containing PowerFrame grids are engineered with confidence to ensure you can trust them start after start. Look for the PowerFrame logo on the outside and know you're getting true strength on the inside. You can learn more at powerframe.com. And to that end, recently I had a battery failure in my automobile, and I selected the PowerFrame Grid technology for my automobile. I was disappointed in the original battery that only lasted 4 years, especially considering that it was a large battery, a luxury car, lots of electronics, and the brand I won't mention, but it was a factory battery. It could have just been a fluke, but the bottom line, I chose the PowerFrame Grid technology because it is a stronger, more durable battery, better current flow, but it also has a resistance to corrosion that other batteries do not have. Fantastic battery, the latest technology, and that's really what drives me, is the latest and greatest technology. You have an opportunity to go to powerframe.com and check out the PowerFrame Grid technology for yourself. Let's go to Lawrence in Texas. Lawrence, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding.
Thank you for getting my call. I have a gas problem. A friend of mine has a gas problem. It's a 2012 Nissan Armada.
Okay.
And it's supposed to get 12.1 miles to the gallon of gas.
Okay.
But it doesn't do that. She had some larger tires on there, and it still was burning gas. But what it does, it will show. It says you got 80. It's supposed to have 81 miles to the gallon.
Right.
And then it might jump to 70, and then it goes back, and it doesn't get that many miles. And I noticed with both sets of tires that she's had on her car that you might get about 5 miles to a gallon of gas. And was wondering what could cause that. Could it be a sensor? Did they have a problem with those automobiles?
Well, they didn't have problems. A 2012, Lawrence, a 2012 model automobile has the latest configuration of MPG according to the Monroney sticker. In other words, if the Monroney sticker, which is the new car sticker, says 12 and say 12 and 18 or 16 average, then you should get 12 miles per gallon and you should get 18 on the road. So, city and highway selectively. But the biggest challenge that I find, and I'm a little confused here because you mentioned something about changing tires and putting a larger tire on the automobile. Was that done? Has that been done to that vehicle?
Yeah, but then she went back to the regular size tire, and it's still doing the same thing. It just goes back and forth.
Well, here's
it's not a gauge, but it just shows. Yeah, it goes just back and forth.
Well, let me just ask this question: the old-fashioned way before we had computers was to put in fill your tank and drive. So if you drove 100 miles, and also you have to make sure that your speedometer is correct, and that's where you can use a mile marker on the highway. And you can check your speedometer by running 60 miles per hour, and you should cover 60 miles in 1 hour, but you can use that for 10 minutes, and then you should have covered 6 miles. So that's the way you do that. And then you check to see how your speedometer is calibrated. That's number one, and that's easy enough to do on any road trip, okay? And you don't have to go exactly 60 miles an hour. You can look at the speedometer, and if your speedometer's at 100, or pick any number, whatever it is, at 1 mile marker, and you go 10 miles, it should be 10 miles more than what it had to the 10th. And it'll be a tenth or two off, but if you're off, say 5 or 6 tenths, then that gives you the percentage, so you know that your speedometer is incorrect. And the good news is the Nissan and late model cars, the speedometer can be recalibrated. So that's number one. And number two, she needs to check true MPG on the highway. And I say highway because city driving is so, that's a gray area. I can drive.
Yeah.
I can drive. I mean, I can drive a car. Well, Carl Edwards, who is a famous NASCAR driver, when Ford came out with their Focus 8 years ago, he took a 41 mile per gallon Focus and got 80 miles per gallon out of the car. Now, he didn't go fast. He knew how to coast, and he knew how to use what's called a fuel cut. And all cars have a fuel cut. I won't get into that, but so if you're coming down a hill and your engine is turning 1,500 RPM, you let off the throttle all the way, the car shuts off the fuel. So you're going down a hill and you're getting infinity in gas mileage because the car is moving using zero gas. That's called a fuel cut. But your accelerator has to be completely at rest so that it shuts the fuel off, because the computer knows that, and the engine has to be above 1,500 RPM. And the only way that can happen is if you're going 60 miles an hour, let off the gas, and then you coast to a rest area. That's when you're using zero. And if you can look at the instantaneous readout of your MPG, and it's a 2-digit, so it only goes to 99 miles per gallon. I can show anyone how they can get 99 miles per gallon. So I said all that to say that in town, you got to get that big Armada rolling. You got to stop it. You got to start it. Start, stop, stop. So in-town MPG is a very gray area because for me, I only go 3.7 miles from my home to the studio here. So I don't get any really good gas mileage, but I go across the Pensacola Bay Bridge and I get highway miles per gallon. So overall, I get 15.5 to 16 miles per gallon average on my luxury car in town, and I get 26.7 at 79 miles per hour on the road. And I've done it consistently for 40,000 miles, so I know what the car gets. And I say that if I drove the Armada, I can know what that car got as well. I think that she needs to really fill the tank, drive 100 miles, or 10 miles. Well, no, you can't drive 10 miles. You can't do that. You have to drive 100 miles or 200 miles. Stop and fill the tank and divide the miles by the gallons, and you'll know what you're getting in the real world. Forget all the gauges. I think that she is confused by the gauges, but doesn't matter, because she needs to know, and you need to know the answer to the question. And the answer to the question is, depends on the driving, depends on the state of tune of the engine, and depends on the oil in the engine, depends on the pressure in the tires, depends on all of those things. So you take all those things in collectively, all of those things meaning tire pressure, alignment, engine oil, condition of engine, temperature of engine. She could have a bad thermostat, Lawrence, and the engine.
Okay, because.
And the engine could be running 175 degrees or 80 degrees instead of 210, and it would cost her gas mileage.
Okay, because when she turns it on sometime,
right?
Okay, if it's showing that she got 60 more gallons of gas in there, well, it might go down to showing that it needs gas in there.
Well,
and then as she starts driving it,
I got
show
you.
the correct amount.
I got you, but all the more reason she has to forget the gauges, forget all that. She's got to fill it, drive it X miles, and see what it's getting in the real world. Forget the gauges. Now, I play games with myself and my gauges, and by that, it's a game of, I run my car to the low fuel light comes on, and when the low fuel light comes on, it will show that there are like 42 miles or 34 miles to empty, or whatever it is to empty. I run the car all the way down to it has 0 miles per gallon. 0 miles to empty. And I know if that's the point, there should be 1.4 gallons left in the vehicle. And I'll fill my car up, and I'll guess before I look at the gauge with a 2-click fill up, and I'll guess within 0.2 of a mile of a gallon of gas. And Fabio, we did that one day. I gave you my gas receipt when I came in. And I said, okay, it should hold 19.6, and it held 19.68, I think, as I remember. Yeah. So I said all that to say the reason I do that is because it's fun for me, and it also is an easy way for me to know if my engine is not running right, because if my gas mileage goes away on one tank, I really pay attention on the next tank, And if it's still askew, I know there's something wrong with the car. And the reason that's so important, Lawrence and folks, the reason it's so important for you to know the true MPG of your vehicle is because the computer on board will mask problems. And you won't know you've got a problem until it continues to be exacerbated by other problems. Next thing you know, you got a check engine light on. Next thing you know, you're spending $1,000 in a shop trying to fix a problem that started off 6 months ago. Much less those of you who ignore the check engine light for 6 months. I don't even want to go there. You're just, you know, those lights are on the dash for a reason, not to bug you, but to drive you to a service facility to get your car repaired. So, Lawrence, I hope you understand that we need to get back to the basics here. And miles driven, gallons used. Miles driven, gallons used. You got it?
All right.
Okay, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for calling. Thank you for your nice comments up front. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. From Texas, Lawrence, probably Tyler, Texas. 888-227-2546. Mentioned earlier the power frame battery that I put in my car. Now, the power frame does not make a battery. That is a grid technology. And if you'll go to powerframe.com and just check out the power frame grid, you'll understand why I'm so excited about that particular battery. Not only is it the best battery, and truly, it's hard for anyone in the business to say, oh, this product is the best. It's the best, because every company that makes a product says, mine's the best, mine's the best. Well, PowerFrame is a brand of Johnson Controls. Johnson Controls is a global company. They understand technology. They are knee-deep in technology. And the PowerFrame grid technology is a stamped grid versus the book mold, which is a cast grid. So it's more precise in its cut and stamp. And the electrons flow more precisely. Corrosion is reduced some 60+%. Current flow is increased some 70%. The overall, when you buy a battery that has the PowerFrame logo on the outside, you'll know you're getting true strength on the inside. So the next battery that you buy for your automobile, check it out. Make sure it's PowerFrame grid technology. Back with your calls, 888 Car Clinic. Don't touch that dial. We recently had the opportunity to work on a 2005 F-150. The vehicle owner was complaining about brake noise. His pads and shoes were not terribly old, but did have some miles on them. He's in the delivery service business, which puts his vehicle through a lot of stop-and-go traffic. This works the brakes really hard and can often lead to glazing and excessive brake dust. After performing a visual inspection, we cleaned the brakes using Berryman Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner. It's the first VOC-compliant chlorinated brake cleaner available in over 20 years. Berryman Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner is designed to stop brake squeal. It's the strongest carb-compliant brake cleaner available and dries completely without residue. As part of the process, we were sure to clean the pivot and shoe pad contact points along with the brake spring hardware and self-adjuster mechanisms. Brake dust gets everywhere, and a proper cleaning on an annual basis will lead to longer brake life and better brake performance. Learn more about the new Berryman Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner at BerrymanProducts.com. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Miss Jan will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. Put you in the queue, and I'll put you on the air if you have a car question. We've had an interesting broadcast today. Questions about everything from gas mileage to tires to increasing horsepower. It really is interesting to me. And I brought this up, the first hour of today and even earlier in this hour about horsepower and torque and MPG and the Ford EcoBoost. And of course, GM has EcoTech, and there are many other Hondas. I mean, all the manufacturers are creating engines these days and designing engines that have adjustable timing, fuel, and valve control and valve lift, and some engines are even being designed to do away with the throttle, so there's no throttle. And you say, well, wait a minute, how will an engine run with no throttle? Well, think about it. If you open your mouth and don't breathe, your mouth is your throttle, but really, if you don't breathe, so your lung doesn't move, then no air flows in or out. Think about it. There you go. So you have no airflow. So if you have an engine that the valves do not open, there's no airflow in that engine. So if you can control the valve opening and the amount of opening infinitely, then you can determine the speed of the engine. That's how it works. And it's a throttle body. Now, they do have a throttle body on this particular vehicle, this engine, because if for some reason the computer fails and the valves run wild, in other words, if they open up all the way, then the engine would run away. So there is a throttle body, but it's a safety. It's for safety features. And the reason, you say, well, why would you want to take away the throttle body? The reason you want to do that is because there are pumping losses. Vacuum is a necessary or an unnecessary evil in an engine. And the intake manifold has a vacuum because you have the pistons trying to pull air in all the time because the valves are opening. Well, there's no air can get in unless you open the throttle. So it's very interesting, at least it is to me. I hope that it is to you. I'll be anxious to hear your thoughts. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546, and I'll invite you to call now. I mentioned also electric wind that takes a truck aerodynamics from brick to slick. Not my words. These are the words of the release. But researchers at Sweden's KTH Royal Institute of Technology are developing a device, folks, that increases the fuel efficiency of trucks by cloaking them in electric wind. They use plasma actuators to charge the air. The new technology controls the flow of wind around the truck, and that reduces drag, which improves the fuel consumption by, could be up to 5%. That is huge. Aircraft, too, have problems with drag. So think about it. When a plane's taking off, for example, the increasing angle of attack causes the air to flow less smoothly over the top of the wing and breaks up into turbulence. So engineers get around this by lifting winglets. They fit winglets to the tips of the wings. You've seen those curved tips on a lot of planes. Those are called winglets, and that generates vortexes that increase the lift. So this company, KTH, wanted something similar for trucks to reduce the drag. The snag is that trucks obviously aren't airplanes. So what they did, they came up with a way to generate these vortices at the front of the truck, and that controls airflow, but instead of using metal winglets, they use generators that generate electric wind. Now, I won't try to explain because I'm not sure quite how this works, but the ultimate goal is to reduce the flow separation of air around the front corners of the truck. And by adding momentum close to the surface, the size of the separated region is reduced. And there's a boundary layer when you're driving down the road of 2 inches. And you could see on some commercials when on television where they use in a wind tunnel, they use the smoke test and the air flows over a vehicle. The smoke doesn't get right down on the paint, right down on the surface. There's a boundary layer there. And that boundary layer determines the drag on the car, and of course the aerodynamics of the vehicle. And that's one of the things that semis don't have much of is aerodynamics because they're hauling a big load. Of course, they do have those pointed shaped conical devices that go over the cab, and now you see those long skirts that go under trailers that stop some of that wind from getting all tangled up into the underbelly of the truck and the trailer specifically. So it's interesting to me, as I said, the technology continues to get better and better as we continue to learn more and more. It's really very interesting. 888 Car Clinic is the number. Still plenty of time to get in. 888-227-2546. Gas prices, $2.40. There are 9 regions in the United States that the government checks gas prices. The only region in the United States of 10 regions, I said 9, I think there are 10 regions. In 9 of those, the gas prices are up from this time last week. In 9 of those, gas prices are up in the same time this time last year. And the average price of gas is $2.40. On the West Coast, it's $2.95. Actually, it's 2.959. So that's $2.96. That's 28 cents higher than it was this time last year, and it's almost 3 cents higher than it was last week. So I just want you to know that gas prices are kind of inching their way back up because I keep these records and I try to remember to give you these reports every week on gas prices. So just know that as the gas prices inch up, the sale of cars is directly dictated by the price of gas. More SUVs, more trucks, lower gas prices. Higher gas prices, more smaller cars. So I'm just glad that I'm not a GM or a Ford or a Chrysler or a car company trying to meet all of the government mandates, the safety standards, and give you the best looking car that beat my competition in gas mileage and horsepower. And I mean, that is a world of competition. The good news is we're the winners because this is a buyer's market. If there's not a car or vehicle on the road today that you really like, you wait 6 months and something new will come out. It's great. I love it. Let's go to Victor in Washington. Victor, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, yeah. Well, now you said they could get the valves to quit working, and so they wouldn't have a vacuum. Now, how do they do that? How do they make the cam quit turning, or what?
No, they control by valve opening. They have devices, electronic cups on the valves, and they control the opening time and the amount of lift on the valves. So if you've got a window and you want to just crack a window to let the hot air out, you can let that window open, 1 inch, or you can put it all the way down. And so if you open the valve of a car, I don't know. It depends on the engine, of course. But if you open the valve, say 50 thousandths, you're not getting a lot of air in there. And the speed of the engine is dictated by the amount of air allowed into the engine, not the fuel. Fuel has nothing to do with it. That's just mixed with the air. That's a no-brainer. It's not about. It is all about mixing air and fuel, but the power is made by how much air you can get into a cylinder, and that's why turbochargers and superchargers increase power, because the little engine thinks it's a bigger engine because it has the same air that was drawn in by a larger engine because the air was forced in. So
Okay.
you understand? Question.
Well, now you're the old way of doing it. Of course, you had your cam and your push rod.
Right.
And it sounds like they can either lengthen or shorten that push rod with electronically.
Definitely. GM controls their cylinders with oil that cuts off oil flow to the lifters, and so the lifters this is old technology now, but in fact they had some problems with those lifters. But the lifters are actually collapsible, so when the lifter collapsed, it's still spring loaded. The cam turns and the lifter rides over the cam. It's a roller lifter, but it doesn't push a push rod, so it doesn't open the valve. So you turn that, you don't open the valve, the piston goes up and down.
Oh, so they just cut the oil out of the hydraulic lifter to the point that it shortens up, and
that is
therefore
correct.
the.
You got it.
I see.
You got it. Yeah, and to that end, every day there are new technologies, Victor, that are coming out. But when you can control the valve, see now let's think about it. If you have an engine that is pulling a vacuum, I don't know if you've ever used a mechanical device to pull a vacuum, or a tire pump. Okay. It takes energy to pump a tire. It also takes energy to pull a vacuum. So that energy is called pumping loss. So if you have an engine that has a standard internal combustion engine that has a throttle, you cannot possibly get the same gas mileage as that same engine. Plus, here's the neat thing about it. Throttle response is more instantaneous, because in a standard engine like you and I drive today, when you open a throttle, that vacuum has to go from negative pressure to positive pressure and flow air in, and then air has to reach the cylinder, and that's lag time. So if you have air pressure at the valve, i.e. with no throttle, then you have instant flow into the cylinder. It doesn't have to go from a negative loss to a positive pressure. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
Yeah, and which means, bam. It means that the minute you open the valve, air flows, because the air pressure is just outside the valve, not up the plenum at the mouth of the engine. It's so simple. It's so simple. But of course, you got to have the fail-safe, so that even though this engine does not have uses its valves to control the speed, it also has a throttle body in case the computer goes wild, and because the engine could run away if the computer failed, and so they use a throttle body that
have a butterfly that they can shut there, huh?
Yeah, that can choke it. Yeah, right. It's
well,
all about
on that hydraulic lifter. There must be electronically they're able to open and shut that oil hole to the point they can change the length of the valve rod. But now,
well, if you had electronic openers, then you don't need a lifter, because the electronic device, like air cups or electronic pistons, then that piston can be opened electronically, just like turning up the volume on a radio. It's a potentiometer, so you can control the voltage to the device. You can control the infinite movement. And think about this, and I've said this many times, and folks, we'll take your calls, plenty of time to get in. Well, not plenty of time, but 888 Car Clinic. But think about this: if you're standing with your arm to your side, or down to your side of your body, and your arm moves up to perpendicular to your body, straight out, and let's just say that's let's say that's 10 inches. I mean, it's more than that, but let's say it's well, how far is it? Let's say it's 25 inches. So if I send you 25 volts and you send me back 24 volts, you've moved 1 inch. And I know where your arm is because I don't have to look at it. I know where it is because you're only using, if it uses a volt per inch of movement and it takes 25, you can move 25 inches. So in essence, a car sends a sensor 5 volts, and then the return voltage that the sensor that feeds back determines the position of that particular component. That's how air conditioner blend doors are made. When you open a temperature blend door, you have dual controls on cars where the driver and passenger have different controls. And on those cars that those controls or those actuators go bad, you can hear the actuator going tick, 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 tick. And because it's not opening, and because there's a gear stripped in it. And that gear, they're little potentiometers and sensors that measure the location of the shaft that turns the blend door. It's really simple when you break it down. It's not simple to explain it, and sometimes I do a pretty good job, and sometimes I feel like I don't. But
well, there has to be a sensor then on the vacuum in the intake, and that will send a signal to the computer to either open or shut the oil hole in your hydraulic lifter then, huh?
Yep, it's all done by that. It's all done by sensors, and sensors go to the computer, and the engine speed and throttle position, driver demand, road speed, engine temperature, air temperature, and all of those controls. That it's very sophisticated. Victor, thanks for calling. Great to hear from you.
You bet. Yeah.
And I want to remind everyone out there, if you're in the market for tires, the General Tire G-Max AS05 is the best. It has the smart grip technology. It has the stable tread, which is called StabiliTread technology, that the footprint, the tread, and the compound provide longer tread life. And what I love is a smart monitor technology that tells you to check alignment and shows you when to replace your tires. For more information, go to GeneralTire.com. Next week, same location, same time, right here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
We recently had the chance to talk tires with John Robinson, Senior Communications Specialist at General Tire. John provided several tips, including things you can do to help extend tire life.
There are things you can do to extend the life of your tires. One is your air pressure. Check it on a monthly basis. The other is your wheel alignment and your front end alignment on your vehicle. We have a couple products that will help you with that. The vehicle alignment indicators on the tires, as well as RTM, the Replace Tire Monitor System, that will actually tell you in a series of words printed on the tire when it's time for new tires. So always check your tires and take care of the tires because they will take care of you at the end of the day.
And now through June 15th, General Tire is offering up to $70 on a prepaid Visa gift card when you purchase 4 qualifying tires. And with the new tires like the G-Max AS05, the selection has never been better. Find your next set of tires at GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rossi Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grown, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake up.